Pope Francis has died.
You ever stop to wonder what actually happens when a pope dies? I don't mean the part you see on TV, flags at half-mast, a sea of candles and solemn organ music. I mean behind the scenes, behind those centuries-old doors, guarded by men in Renaissance cosplay with halberds. I remember the first time I saw that smoke on TV. I was like, wait, that's how they pick the Pope? Because once that conclave begins, the Vatican transforms into something between a sacred ritual and a political chess match, minus the live stream. No cameras, no phones, just old men in red robes deciding who gets to wear the white one. And the craziest part? We're not supposed to know how it works. So of course, we're going to talk about it. Hit subscribe for more deep dives into things you're technically not supposed to know. Your curiosity deserves it. The church probably won't approve, but hey, we're already here. So, here's what triggers it all. The Pope dies, or, on very rare occasions, resigns, looking at you, Benedict XVI. And suddenly the most ancient HR process on Earth kicks into gear. Cardinals from every corner of the globe, usually around 120 of them, drop whatever they're doing, book a flight to Rome, and prepare for spiritual lockdown, because they're about to elect the next leader of 1.3 billion Catholics. But this isn't some polite group discussion over biscotti. This is high-stakes, full-on, no-exit deliberation inside the Sistine Chapel. Once they're in, they're locked in. Literally, it's called a conclave, from the Latin cum clave, meaning with a key, because they're sealed inside, old-school style. No phones, no Wi-Fi, no leaking to journalists. Just stained glass, heavy robes, and the watchful eyes of Michelangelo's Last Judgment staring down at them like, don't mess this up. And from that moment on, the world waits for smoke. So what actually happens inside once the doors close? First, the Oath of Secrecy. Each cardinal swears, in Latin of course,
John Paul II.
To absolute secrecy, no whispering, no writing, no leaking anything that happens during the conclave. If they break that oath, they risk automatic excommunication. That's right, straight to spiritual jail. No appeal, no confessional, get out of hell free card. Then comes the lockdown, and I mean full-on Vatican Big Brother. The Sistine Chapel is swept for bugs, real ones, like microphones, not cockroaches. Jamming devices are activated, windows are sealed, even the cleaning staff is vetted like they're applying to Langley. No phones, no texts, no, hey ChatGPT, who should be Pope? Just cardinals' robes and Michelangelo's Last Judgment staring down like an eternal HR manager. Now officially, cardinals aren't allowed to campaign or lobby, it's not supposed to be political. But hey, we're human, and they're human in Italian palaces, so yeah, there's politics. And there's one moment after the voting, quiet, emotional, almost hidden, that most people never hear about. But before we get there, let's talk about how things heat up inside those walls. There are factions, reformers versus traditionalists, progressives who want women to have more roles in the church versus those who think Vatican II was already too much. There are whispers in hallways, implied promises, little nods over pasta. You can't say, vote for me. But you can say, you know who's really holy and humble and speaks such 7 languages? Just saying, alliances form, reputations matter. Some cardinals show up as papabile, popable, others are kingmakers. And then there's the actual voting process, which is bizarrely analog. Each cardinal writes the name of their chosen candidate on a rectangular piece of paper. No ballot box, no scantron. They fold it once. Then again, walk it up to the altar and say, I call as my witness Christ the Lord, who will be my judge, that I am voting for the one whom, before God, I think should be elected. Which is one way to make peer pressure eternal. I'm not saying I understand how the Holy Spirit handles vote tallies, but it definitely adds pressure when you say Christ is watching while you check a name on a slip of paper. They drop the ballot into a chalice on a plate, Vatican-approved sacred Tupperware, and the votes are then counted by 3 designated cardinal scrutineers. If nobody gets a 2/3 majority, they burn the ballots with a chemical that creates black smoke, fumata nera, and try again, twice a day, every day. Now let's talk about papabile, a term used for cardinals seen as strong contenders. It literally means papabile. They're the frontrunners, the ones people are already whispering about before the conclave even begins. But here's the twist. Being papabile is a curse. There's an old saying, "He who enters the conclave as pope leaves as a cardinal." Translation? If you look too confident, too popular, you're done. The others will see it as ambition, and the holy version of vote blocking kicks in. Meanwhile, the 3 scrutineers, the official vote counters, are rotated each day to prevent manipulation. They double-check each ballot, record the names, and even verify the handwriting to avoid duplicate fraud. Yes, that's actually been a thing. And if the election drags on for too long, historically, popes have locked up the food supply or removed the roof to speed things up, because nothing says, "Holy Spirit, hurry up," like voting in the rain. So while the world waits, watching the chimney like it's a holy slot machine, inside it's vote after vote, alliance after alliance, pressure rising, until finally a breakthrough or a deadlock. And sometimes that's when the real drama begins. Eventually, after days, sometimes weeks of voting, something shifts. The smoke stays black, the world keeps waiting, and inside, alliances get desperate. One cardinal gains momentum, then loses it. Another surprises everyone with a last-minute surge. Factions dissolve, some double down, some backstab, some pray harder. And then suddenly or slowly, it happens. Someone hits the 2/3 majority. The votes are counted, double-checked, and confirmed. At this point, the entire chapel goes still, like nuclear button level still. The dean of the College of Cardinals turns to the man who received the votes and asks one simple question. Do you accept your canonical election as Supreme Pontiff? Now here's the kicker, he can say no. And it's actually happened. In 1978, Cardinal Giovanni Colombo reportedly refused the position, claiming he was too old. Honestly, respect. He was 75 years old at the time, so yeah, he kinda was. Most say yes, because when the Holy Spirit taps you on the shoulder, it's bad form to ignore the call. Remember that quiet moment I mentioned earlier? It happens now. The voting is done, the name is chosen. But before the world sees him, he enters a tiny hidden room, and everything changes. Then comes the moment where he chooses his papal name. This isn't just branding, it signals his agenda. Call yourself John Paul III, you're invoking continuity. Francis, you're signaling humility, reform, care for the poor. Once the name is chosen, the new pope disappears into the room of tears. And yes, that's the actual name, a tiny chamber next to the Sistine Chapel, where he changes into his white papal garments. 3 sizes waiting, because they don't know who's going to win. Some cry, some pray, some just sit there thinking, oh, well, guess we're really doing this. Meanwhile, outside, the ballots are burned once more, this time releasing the unmistakable signal, a pale plume that tells the world, it's done. Fumata bianca. The bells of St. Peter's start ringing. The crowds erupt, and the world knows we have a pope. Back inside, the new pontiff is led to a red curtain overlooking St. Peter's Square, and then a cardinal appears and announces to the masses, Habemus Papam, we have a pope. And just like that, the conclave is over. The doors open, the robes are adjusted, the church has a new leader, and none of us were supposed to know what just happened. In 2013, Pope Francis wasn't even seen as a frontrunner. He was 76, quiet, not papabile by traditional standards. And yet, boom, a Jesuit from Argentina, taking the name of a saint known for rejecting wealth. The truth is, we may never know the full details of what happens inside those walls. The oaths are binding, the transcripts don't exist, the memories fade, and maybe that's the point. Because in a world where everything is live-streamed, blogged, screenshotted, and leaked, the conclave remains one of the last rituals that still runs on mystery. Maybe it's for the best there are no cameras inside. Can you imagine the live stream? And here we have Cardinal Tagle making his 6th trip to the altar. Oh, and a surprise vote for someone who's been dead since 1890. The conclave doesn't just choose a man, it redefines the future of the church. Quietly, behind closed doors. And that's exactly why people can't stop wondering what really happens inside. So, what do you think? Divine mystery? Political theater? Maybe both? If you found yourself leaning in, nodding along, or whispering, "Wait, what?" at any point during this video, congrats, you're exactly the kind of curious rebel this channel is made for. Hit that subscribe button, because if they won't let us into the Sistine Chapel, we'll just meet here every week and figure it out anyway. And if you've got thoughts on conclaves, cardinals, or conspiracy theories involving chimney smoke, drop them in the comments. Seriously, I read all of them, even the unhinged ones. Oh, and before you go, if you were in that chapel and had to cast a vote, who would you choose as Pope? Don't overthink it. Beyonce is still on the table. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, unless I get excommunicated first.